Okay. All right. Well, first, just to briefly introduce myself, my name is Chris Rush. I've been teaching business English 100% online since 2012. And my topic today is how to motivate online students to study offline. So basically, this is just going to be a quick thing of how to encourage students to study. So the first thing, oh, and by the way, if anyone wants to contact me, I don't have an email address or anything on this slide, but you can always find me on LinkedIn. So if you look for me on LinkedIn, you should definitely be able to find me. So why is it necessary to motivate students to study? So we've got this topic, but why is this something that is by nature important? Well, here is the problem. So I have here a little chart, and what this chart is this is a visual representation of what 1 hour out of a week looks like. Okay, so if it comes to a lesson for 1 hour a week and they don't use their English for the rest of the week, this is what it looks like. And I think it's pretty obvious by looking at this that there's no way you can improve anything with this kind of ratio. Okay, so this is a big problem that we need to address with motivation to study. There's another problem, and it's this. Okay, so here we have, this is the student who does all of their studying 1 day a week, spending 3 hours a day and no time any other day. Okay, so this doesn't work for a couple of reasons. And the analogy I heard, I think from Jennifer England, you can't fit a week's worth of food into a day any more than you can fit a week's worth of language studying into 1 day. Okay, so this is kind of interesting, but this is just me, so don't take my word for it. Why is it so important to motivate people to study? And the answer is because research. Okay, so research says that obviously 1 hour a week of study won't cut it. Okay, that doesn't achieve anything. But also that shorter amounts of time on multiple days is more effective to learn something than spending a larger amount of time on 1 day. So this is kind of the problem that we're framing. Okay, why is studying, why is encouraging our students to spend time on their own important? Well, let's talk about the solution. Okay, and here is the solution. So the solution is buy-in. So what is buy-in, and what do I mean by that when I say buy-in? When I say buy-in, it means selling students on a vision of what is possible with improved English. This ties a little bit into what Jamie Miller talked about in the last presentation, which is, why do you want to improve English? Well, because I want to get better. That is not enough motivation. Because I want to get better, that's not going to motivate students to study in the middle of the week when they've got their work, when they've got their lives, and they just want to relax and watch a movie. I want to get better is just such a bland thing. It's not going to really give you that reason to say, yes, I'm going to take this step, and even though I'm tired or whatever, I'm going to do this activity or watch this thing in English or read this thing in English. So if we get our students to talk about why they want to learn English, then that's going to give them that motivation. And in this buy-in, we talk about the benefits of improved English, okay? You're not telling them, okay, I'm going to give you lessons so that you can get better, so that your English can be better. You're giving them lessons so that they can get a better job, so that they can ace that job interview that they have coming up. Very few people learn languages as a hobby. Most everyone needs some concrete benefit. So we've got to get them to get this buy-in, and this happens right at the beginning of our time with students. So how do we do this? How do we get them to buy in? And the answer is motivation. So we motivate our students, and what does that look like? How do you motivate the students? So how do I get buy-in? Well, I do a couple of things. One, I make really time specific. I'm not working with students for 2.5 years. I'm more likely to be working with a student for 2.5 months. So I say, okay, listen, you and I are working together for this specific amount of time. And let's take this specific amount of time, this 2.5 months or whatever it may be, and let's really make it a time to focus on your English. Okay, so if you're starting this big open-ended thing, then it doesn't really, it's like, well, where am I going to fit English into my life? But if you say, look, you only need to really fit English into your life in this concrete way for this amount of time. They say, okay, it has a beginning and it has an end and I can do it. So they will understand, okay, maybe I need to spend less time on this hobby, or maybe I need to maybe not watch a movie every weekend like I normally do. I'm going to take this time and I'm going to really focus on my English. And again, like I said in the last slide, the emphasis is on the benefits. And all of this, to encourage this buy-in, this is all about giving students the thing that they need to say, when you're not with them, when you're not having a class, to say, I need to do that activity. I need to do that homework. I need to look at that thing that my teacher told me to read. Okay, so what I want to talk about next is what it looks like, okay? So here's what buy-in looks like, and this is also what buy-in doesn't look like. So this is something I always show my students. So I have this dotted line here, and this dotted line is like the starting level, okay? This is where you are. And I show them how improvement is possible. And you get the maximum improvement when the students say, I spend 60 minutes or more using English every day, and I bring topics to the sessions. And I kind of go through these one by one, and you can sort of just see them until we get down at the bottom where it says, I don't use English very much, but I always come to my lesson. Such little improvement there. And then finally, we have a red arrow going in the opposite direction that says, I don't have time for homework. I come to class when I'm not too busy. So I actually tell my students, look, you in this class together, you have potential for huge improvement. You also have potential to actually not improve at all and for your language ability to get worse if this is your attitude. So it's so important to set out right away at the beginning what the goal is and what you're asking of the student to make your expectations clear. I want to talk a little bit about methods. So when you've got a motivated student, this is what I do with my motivated students. I make for them a personal English act plan, and I go through with them and I say, okay, let's talk about how you're going to use English every day. So I say, it's boring to do the same, expose yourself to the same things. So we look at YouTube, we look at movies, we look at books, we look at podcasts, we look at all these different things, and we make a schedule. And I say, okay, on Mondays, what is going to be your exposure to English? Oh, you like travel. Where do you like to go? Indonesia. Okay, that's a great place. Let's get this podcast on travel in Indonesia. And every Monday when you're driving to work, you can listen to this thing and it's something you're going to enjoy. And then you want to talk about it. So you're going to come to your lesson and you're going to say, hey, I heard this thing in this podcast and I didn't understand. So a motivated student will be engaging with the material on their own and be bringing it to you to talk about in class. And when you have that, that is the best possible scenario. So the thing about that is that it is super dynamic. The students are bringing the topics to the sessions, but it's harder to teach, okay, because you don't know what you're going to talk about. So if the student says, hey, this person said this thing and I don't know how to use it, you're like, oh, what grammar is that? Oh, let's talk about it, or let's bust into this vocabulary. So it's harder to teach, yes, but it's so much better for your students. If you have an unmotivated student, it's more static, okay? So you have to give them homework, give them grammar exercises. Now, this is easy to teach because you say, okay, here are your blanks, you can fill them in, and then when you come to class next time, we're going to go over them. Expectations are clear. For students who have a hard time doing things outside of class, this is the kind of thing you have to resort to. And it's not the best, but it's a method. And there are times when this is the only thing that students are going to have time to do. So I'm at my 1 minute mark. I'm going to throw my conclusion up here. My conclusion is a picture of a horse. And what I want to end with is we have this expression that says, ultimately, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And I have this example of a student that I had who needed English for work, and he said, Chris, what are you going to do to improve my English? And I got really excited and I made him a plan, and he just didn't spend the time out of class. And because he didn't spend any time out of class, even though he wanted English, he needed English, it didn't connect to the rest of his everyday life outside of our lesson. And I talked to him for like a year, and the English level slowly declined because no matter how I tried, I couldn't get him. So ultimately, this is the ultimate responsibility of the student, but as teachers, it's our responsibility to do everything that we can to show them the reasons, the importance, and the benefits of spending time outside of class studying. So that takes me right about to my 10 minutes. Thank you guys very much. It was a pleasure. Thanks very much, Rob and Nelly, for having me.